or not Tanish? I believe William Shakespeare said that. Because he had Instagram.
Tanish.
I'm saying that. Tanish or not Tanish? I'm at a crossroads. We mentioned this last episode where I'm coming to realize that I have been in a box and hadn't even realized it. Invisible jail. Invisible creative jail. I've gotten to a point, a realization after I hung out with Ian Jones, who's been on the show multiple times. Go back and listen to those episodes because they're full of knowledge or of insightful tips that you can apply. I hung out with him for a weekend. And I was like, I can be so much more than the guy who posts bears and foxes and stuff. And so I'm really trying to get to a point now where I'm outdoors photographer. So the age-old question, Tanish or not Tanish? I wonder how many people feel like they're in too deep on something or that they gotta like specialize. Like very, we talked about that mile deep canyon, but an inch wide. I feel like I thought that for a long time, but I'm like, it's not fun. If it's not fun, it's not sustainable. So Tanish or not Tanish? That is the question. This is the Photographer Mindset Podcast. We blend photography principles, mindset principles, put them together so we can get better at photography, whether that means making money, just taking better photos and videos, etc. Talk a lot about having a healthy relationship with social media. I'll be interested to see what anthropologists say about this time 50, 100 years from now.
Jesus,
a lot of people think that social media is the new smoking. We'll see. There's a lot of good in it as well. This is the Photographer Mindset Podcast. I'm Seth Macy. This is Aaron Manis, my co-host. We sit down every week. We talk about those things. We share some stories in hopes that listeners like you can improve your practice. So if you like what you're hearing, leave a rating or review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It takes 2 seconds and supports us tremendously. So what do you think about my blabbering?
Yes,
how do you feel about this? Are we in similar headspaces? And it's separate from, so I don't even care about, people think, he's in a box, meaning what to post on social media. I'm thinking more so just what to take pictures of in general. I've been so short-sighted, I feel like, gotta go out, take the photo of a bear, gotta go out, take a photo of a moose, as opposed to like, oh wow, look at how cool that snowshoe is. Or, oh wow, look at how cool that water ski is. I love doing those things, and I'd like to find a way to incorporate them into my skill set.
Yeah, I hear you. I think maybe from a slightly different angle, similarly, but different maybe mentally, is that I think we have similar profile, I think, look-wise, like outdoorsy, animals, the occasional landscape. I might throw in a cabin here and there. I might throw in some stuff with Stio, who I work with every once in a while. But overall, like the general theme is there. But we do way more than that. There's way more companies we work with. There's way more opportunities for us to share things that are just way off of the profile theme that maybe we don't because of the theme. And like, this portrait session was really cool, but I've never posted portraits. So am I going to start right now?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've struggled or thought about that in terms of like, wow, there's a lot more to me as a photographer than what is on this Instagram profile.
Yeah, I hear you. I think what's happened with me over the course of many months, maybe many years, is I've focused too narrowly, and my photos may be great, but I'm just repeating similar work of other people and not exploring new ideas like I did when I first started, which was when everything was new and exciting. And I feel like you can over niche. I understand niching, especially for commercial purposes. Like you are the you're the e-bike guy or girl. You're the Someone sent me a thing today that, there's actually people who go around and get hired to take CAPTCHA photos. When you're seeing if you're not a robot, those
Oh,
photos you have to click all the fire hydrants or all the
yeah,
bikes.
yeah.
That's a
It's funny.
job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does it pay well?
Amazing. So you could be super, super niche and it makes sense for that kind of stuff. But I feel like for someone like myself and maybe other people are listening, it hurts creativity and you can be niche enough. I feel like outdoors is niche enough, especially if your website and your grid give if they define your style clearly for people who are potentially looking to hire you. Those pages where you just look at them and you're like, yeah, I get it. I know what they're about.
Right.
But it's so all over the place. Ian, who I mentioned at the start of this episode, is one of these people. You just look at the grid and you're like, it's all over the place, but I get it. I'd like to get to that point, but with outdoors in general.
Yeah, I think the question becomes what are we using our Instagram for, or our social media for? If it's not Instagram, but in terms of sharing our work, what is the ultimate goal? Is it to be pigeonholed into one certain thing? Maybe it is. Maybe it is like, hey, I just want to be known for my wildlife photography. I'm not going to post anything else. Like I'll work on maybe I'll even open a different Instagram. Like you had Seth Macy portraits at one point, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe still do. Maybe it's still a thing. But
last post 2020.
Yeah, but
probably.
Like you separated things out because those were really cool though, but you wanted a place to showcase them. I think niching potentially, like, listen, if you made your way in a certain genre, if a certain thing is your thing, then cool. Like that's your brand, that's your company, that's where you're making, your monthly money intake or income. That's what you're going to be doing and focusing on. It makes sense. I'll tell you what, if any company, fill in the blank, goes to my page and is looking for a photographer, they might not understand that I have capabilities in certain aspects. Where if almost any company or person went to Ian's page, they could probably get a good sense of like, he could probably pull just about anything off.
And that's
right?
why half the things in his house
Yeah.
were given from the companies he worked for. I was there. He's like, oh, those speakers. Yeah, they sent me those. Oh, that weird doodad doohickey. Yeah, they sent me those. They sent him like his barbecue. I was like, is anything in your house purchased?
It's like, no.
I was like, no.
Yeah.
But for real though, yeah. So I think my new criteria, and people listening can apply this to whatever main genre they're in. If it's outside and I do the thing, it's going on my feed.
Yeah.
If I'm outside shooting bears, it goes on. If I'm outside, so this kind of conversation or epiphany sparked with him and I went downtown Pittsburgh, and I was excited to hang with Ian because I'm like, I'm going to get to do so many different styles of photography. So I was like, we took my running shoes down and we got some really cool running photos. And people know running is a big part of my life. And he sat down with me. He's like, it's clear that you enjoy a bunch of different things. And I said, yeah. And he says, it's obviously clear too that it just doesn't blend cohesively with what you got going on. I'm paraphrasing. He spoke much better. He's like, you need to find a way to start incorporating into your website or your feed or your social media or whatever, the things that you love doing naturally that you're already doing. He's like, that being said, it wouldn't just make sense for you to turn around and go post these running photos on your page. He's like, you need to like ease into it if you feel like you're way overcommitted to, let's say, in my case, wildlife photos. It's almost like he was describing how to escape from this box and to slowly transition into a new, I guess, brand image.
Yeah. It's easy to get stuck or down a sort of one-way street with what you think is, maybe it's your passion or maybe it's your most interesting avenue of photography. I think I could say that. Like, I think catching a great wildlife photo jazzes me up way more than a clothing shoot, you know. But
Yeah.
at the same time, not by a huge margin, it's fun to be creative and controlling in your photo shoots versus waiting for luck or everything to align. And it's fun to create certain artistic looks or edits based on creative ideas that you can accomplish and execute. So, I think in a way you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're just leaning into one thing, if you have other things that are equally as important, or you feel like you're doing a really nice job with X, Y, and Z. If you leave those out because it's like, oh, this doesn't fit, then you're potentially missing a payday. Not that it's all about that, but you're potentially missing a payday or a connection or someone that sees your feed and just dismisses it based on, oh, this guy
I
just is
sometimes
wildlife.
wonder that. I sometimes wonder how many people have stumbled upon my page and it's like, oh, it's just all bears and wolves and stuff that's really cool, but it's like, we're a outdoor boot company.
Yeah, we need some proof of concept, right? Like,
Right. There's no proof of concept for me beyond animals, which I'm
right,
tired of.
I can't imagine. And they have to do a lot of extra work to dig. They might have to go to your
That's
website
right.
and, like, on my
Who's got time
website,
for 3 clicks?
I have tabs, but it's not representative of what my Instagram is. So I see your point in terms of, like,
It's not
my
aligned.
website. I have food photography, I have some product photography, I have Airbnb photography, and I have like national park photography, which is my own little tab for like collecting my favorite piece from each national park. But if you go to my Instagram, if someone was looking for maybe a restaurant liked a story post that I did, right? I think this is where it can get weird is I post something from wherever. Shout out to Gastropark. I post something from Gastropark. They really like the photos. They're gone in 24 hours, but other restaurants saw that and like, oh, who's the photographer? They click on the photographer and they're like, fox, bear, like bumblebee.
Yeah, it's just a guy who liked the food.
You're like, huh? I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and they just move on because it doesn't make sense. Versus if I had like that intertwined within everything, and maybe in my style, maybe my edits, maybe what have you, they might go like, oh, like this guy's multifaceted. This guy has some talents.
Yeah. And it's like, here's where I think you and I could do better. So for example, you go to the national park, right? Mention you have a tab for those.
Right.
You go to and this is what, not to keep gushing over Ian, but just watching him, this is what he does. It's like, you go to the national park, let's say, right? And you stop in at that coffee shop or that awesome restaurant. That gets a whole album of photos and it gets worked in as a chapter into the trip. So like it makes sense.
Right.
And then you can stay cohesive, but it also ties into the overall story of what you were doing. So let me ask you this. What, if you could post anything you can, what would you love to post? Do you feel like you even have barricades or guardrails? Like if it didn't matter, it really doesn't matter. As I'm saying this, I'm realizing how silly this whole thing is.
Yeah.
If it really didn't matter.
And a more macro zoomed out sort of view, more and more realizing that none of this matters. It's like very fickle.
It'd be super nihilistic.
It's super fickle and it's like a day-to-day thing.
Matter. But we care. That's the thing. It doesn't matter, but we care and we want to share and we want to express ourselves artistically in the best way possible.
I think it depends what you're looking to do, right? If you want to share wildlife and that's it, and you have all these other talents, but you really don't care, then it's branding. So it's like, all right, this works. This is satisfying the cause for my social media. I want to share my wildlife. I think it's really cool. I want to bring in knowledge for conservation. I want to help causes. This is my cause with photography, my main cause with photography. If you're sharing wildlife and landscape like we are, and then you're getting annoyed that you're not getting any product deals, you might have to like rebrand and reconsider. Like, I'm hoping to get X, Y, and Z, a clothing deal or a boot deal or whatever it is. This new tent that is pretty cool. I would love to photograph that and put that up. You have to do likewise stuff, and I think there's ways around it. I think maybe
and display it though. Sorry to interrupt, because like, you and I do those things, but
that's what I mean.
Myself, it's not displayed.
Yeah, you have to display it and post it and get attention towards that sort of thing too. And I think if I dig deeper, where I've been successful with getting product deals is I have to do the shoot first, in a sense. Not a full shoot, but like, hey, I have this idea. Here's a sample, or here's the whole narrative planned out where they can then imagine it. Because if I just said, I would love to take photos for you, and they go to, see a great blue heron, they're going to be like, what? No.
Great blue herons don't camp.
This doesn't make sense. Like, cool photos, but I'm not following. I'm not putting the dots together. So yes, I think it's more like really, again, just getting into, hey, what do I want from photography? If I'm Ian Jones and like, I would love some free stuff, some deals, some money deals. I want to shoot products. I want to promote people's brands. That's what I want to do. Makes perfect sense. Like, do those things.
In that instance, the thing that's really nice, and I guess what I'm trying to embody moving forward, is he shoots his life.
Yeah, he does.
Which I think is I guess the cornerstone of this conversation, because we talk a lot, I think, about being aligned with your truths. And if I'm self-assessing here, listening to myself, I'm not. I'm doing something that's not what I want to do because I think it's what I need to do. In other words, I'm posting tons of wildlife stuff because I feel like that's what I need to do in my niche, and stick with that when I want to do other things. And I also think I'm connected and follow so many awesome people, but these people typically take incredible wildlife shots. So it's like all I see, right? It's all I see. So I feel like that has rubbed off on me too.
Right.
Where it's maybe a keeping up with the Joneses. Okay, we gotta do great stuff too, which is good, which is fine, but also has the potential to kind of put blinders on you. And instead of being a trailblazer, you end up maybe just following what's been done.
Yeah, I think that all makes sense. I think once we used to talk more and more about it. It still hits me where like, oh, it's fall. When do I switch over to
my fall grid
foliage, where like now it's going to be sort of orangey and the leaves and the this and the
maybe
that.
You hate fall.
Yeah.
That's my point.
I suppose you don't have to do any of that stuff, but like, I guess it is, there's a pride in the presentation, and maybe it's learned from, again, the people we looked up to, or the grids that did well back in the day.
You get hit with KJP stuff, and then Colin McGahan has incredible stuff, and you do, and you're like, oh, I got to get out, get my drone up. Everyone's doing it. There's such hype. Maybe you love fishing in the fall, and that's what I'm getting at. Like, let's go shoot fishing content because we love doing it, and we're going to be invested in it emotionally.
What's nice is the shift between, fall photos get 2,500 likes, where a normal photo gets, like, the shift has become, again, a nihilist, but like no one seems to give a crap. Like, do whatever you want to do. Like, make your profile if you're proud of photos, put them up. If you want to decide you're going to do a whole black and white series, do it. Why not? It's not like it honestly, it doesn't matter as much as it matters. Like, it just, I think trying to stick to a thing to appease the 150 likes that you get, the 200 likes, the 50 like whatever it is, like, you're sticking to a thing, kind of like arbitrarily. Like where's the meaning behind it versus saying, you know what? I like that photo. It's black and white. It's really cool though. I'm posting it.
Well, that's how this started for everyone. That's how this works for most people who aren't photographers, these apps.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe we got to be a little more normie. Am I allowed to use that word? Just the majority of people using these platforms, I would say enjoy it. This is my life. This is what I'm eating. This is what I'm doing. Snap, 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 share. And then you can connect on that and you're excited about it. I don't want it to come across like I'm not excited shooting polar bears and brown bears and wolves because people would just yell and cuss at me because that would sound super ungrateful. I love those things. I just want to branch out and I'm ready to do so. And I think I'm sharing this story because it's so easily to get stagnated creatively and not even realize it.
Yeah, and to put a few episodes together, we just talked with Ron Hayes, and we've talked with many people before about getting into certain niches and certain areas, and really it always comes down to like where are people successful? If you want a business, you got to share your personality. If you want to, you got to be camera facing. You got to show who you are to attach to the work that you do. Without that, if you're just posting animals, it could be for all we know, a feature account, right? Like it's just like, it's a little cold. If there's a story or like, oh, this guy loves 3 of the things that I love, like I'm gonna follow his journey. We're gonna connect in that way. It becomes a little bit
if you're
deeper.
a car photographer, you're shooting cars, but you're also working on the car, or you're a mechanic too. Like I see what you're saying.
Yeah, or you went to a race and now you're going to take the photos of people in the stands and portraits, and it just shows a little bit more of the life. Now, like I've done that in different ways. Like I use stories more to tell what's going on in my potential day to day. I don't do it a ton, but like yesterday I went on a beautiful hike with my dog and the colors are changing. And I was like, that's really nice. I'm going to take a quick video, and this dog's a handsome fella. He's right at my feet, and I'm going to show people like what I'm up to and the area that I live in, and that.
And you should be more on your feed, though. This is what I'm saying, because like I'm not here. I am telling you how to run your Instagram. That's so raw and it's so cool, and you clearly love spending time with Cap.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how good a series of intimate pictures, zoomed in, medium, and far out, would be. I would love to see stuff like that from you. So I guess this is like proof in the pudding here. You mentioned the gastropark shots you took.
Yeah. And
I've said this on a previous episode. They were black and white food photos, or there were food photos and like black and white photos of the bands playing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember those. I can't tell you your last 3 posts.
Yeah.
That says a lot. Can you tell me my last 3 posts?
Oh, no, sir.
No. Probably because I don't post enough. But maybe I don't post enough because I'm not enthusiastic. This is what I'm saying. I am taking blinders off my eyes, and I'm wondering how many people listening have them on. And I'm not talking, this isn't all because like, oh, I need the stuff to perform. No, this is about getting a spark back creatively, and that same, not lust, but that same level of excitement when I first started, where everything was new and you're like, your attention is all over the place because things are just so exciting. That is what I'm talking about. And documenting your life, which is unique, but that many people will connect with in a meaningful way.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And I think now's the time to be as authentic as you possibly can be, because it's not so much about numbers right now. It really isn't. at least from where I'm sitting, like it's changed.
Well, I haven't thought about numbers in like 2 years, to be
No,
honest.
yeah, but it's definitely changed, right? Like 4 years ago, it was like your stuff could really perform, and you could post a really nice photo and get 100 followers from it. Like,
yeah, it's funny. I care more about the numbers for our podcast because I want more people to discover these episodes than I do about like, oh, here's a wolf.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
You can find. My point is, I think you can find 1 million wolf photos, but whether you love or hate this show, it's a one of a kind. And like, I want people, and we've met so many cool people. Like, that's why I care more about numbers in that instance.
Mm-hmm.
I think because it's more of a community in that instance.
Yeah, and with that, with a more authentic, potentially feed that shows more of who you truly are and the things that you like, maybe you have an uptick in that sort of sense of community or people relating to certain things, or they're like, I mean, you're a good friend, but posting those black and whites, it was in my story. It wasn't like, but it was a different thing. It was trying something new. It was I don't want to say a risk. I'm not like worried about anything, but for you to say like those were really cool, and my best friend John even reached out and he was like, I love those photos, those were neat. It's like, oh well, I'm fucking hiding this talent.
That's what I'm saying. So, yeah. And then the thing is, people go, well, fuck it, I'm gonna just do whatever. But I think there's also an artistic dance to transitioning into another visual chapter. It's like, how do you go from what you're doing now to including that stuff? Maybe it doesn't matter. I just am someone who likes visual cohesion.
Yeah.
You know,
I think there's certain things that would hit, like, I mean, there's no secret. I do stuff with steel, so that's easy to show a picture of me hiking, which is a rare photo of me. But when I'm doing that, like, hey, I'm wearing that stuff. Like, this is part of the thing. I'm posting stuff from them. Like, I'm hiking. It doesn't not fit, right? But it's very different than bear, great blue heron, hummingbird, waterfall, starry night, even astro or whatnot. Every once in a while is a departure. I think there's a classy way to, or a cohesive way to almost take any photograph and make it fit into a series of photographs. I think where it would get weird is if all of a sudden you went to something drastic, like all black and white out of the blue, or you really edit in cool tones and now you're going super warm. And that can make sense if like there's a just enough time to see the timeline. But like drastic changes can be drastic, but there's other things. Like, I have a bunch of microphone photos that incorporate wildlife.
They're so good.
Like, I could, and I will.
And they
like
only live on the Telefunken page.
Yeah, but that is my that is one of my things. Once that's done being promoted on their end, like I will show my 10 favorite, and I'm pretty confident that it'll fit within my feed because it will make sense. It's very much in my style. So I think there's ways to do it without completely, if you went tomorrow to boudoir shoots and shots, like completely your page, people would think you got hacked. Right. But like,
they're just of me and
and Photoshop
scanty men's underwear.
How do I sign up?
Click the link in bio.
But Hillary, cut that for real.
No. I thought you meant told her to cut it. No, keep it in.
No. So where was I going with this? God, now I'm flustered.
Now you're picturing me in scanty underwear with my OF account.
Jesus.
Great.
But you know what I'm saying? But there is a way to do portraits out in the woods and tie it into what's going on your page. And then maybe if one day you want to get into what we just talked about, I don't want to mention it even again, it would transition a little bit easier. And maybe there's a gradual sort of thing. Like, I'm thinking about Coldplay. when they started out was like this very acoustic sort of British rock music. And after about 3 albums, it got, I don't know if there's a guitar in it. It got very electronic and computer, and God knows like where they are now. They've definitely transitioned and changed in terms of their theme and their niche and their listeners and the demographic that they're going for. And that's all well and good. At their bones, they're still them. And it's probably been a gradual sort of change from album 1 to album 8 or whatever they're on. But it's them, and that's where they went. And you might lose people along the way that go like, dude, I love your animal photos and I'm good with this. But you also might gain people that are like, oh, this person can do jazz and death metal. Like, that's cool. I'm into like their multi-talented viewpoint of the world. So I don't know. I think it's whatever you want to make it. And there definitely is a part of me that's like, there's literally a fucking billion accounts, dude. Like, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah,
like, do whatever you want.
I think we should rewind too, because your point about why, if we're talking about social media, it's like, well, why are you doing this? For a while, I don't think I'd been able to answer that question. That's why I was like, I'm just not going to post. Like, I don't have the reason for it. But again, I wonder how many people have, or companies have been like, have stumbled upon my page and be like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll find someone else to shoot this outdoor watch or something, because the bears sure ain't wearing it. Right? Like, I want my skill set to make sense, because I'm an outdoors guy.
Yeah.
So for me, your question of what do you want your Instagram to do? I want it to no longer lose me business that I haven't known I've lost. And I want it to allow me to creatively express who I am and what I do without feeling like there's guardrails or certain constraints to stay within. Those are my new defined, what's the point of this? And I feel like that's a great question for you to ask.
Yeah.
Yourself.
And knowing you and knowing Seth Macy at the very beginning, where you had the Seth Macy portraits, you had this newer sort of your account, but I haven't done this, but if you scroll like all the way down on your Seth Macy account, it might be slightly different than how it has been for the last couple of years. I think when we really joined a community, when we really found our people in this space, the Nooches, the Bretts, the Brooks, the Jennies, the Dave Sanford, like the influence, it's influential. The influence of our peers was wildlife. Right.
Yeah.
And we jumped on like that sort of like, I want to do what you're doing. It's really cool. Like, I love these photos, and we get into it. But there's this whole other level. Like, if we touch base and really connected with Ian Jones, which is impossible to really connect with him, just awful as a person. I'm kidding, Ian. If you're,
anyways.
Well, I will send him this reel. If we connected with Ian and some of his contemporaries or peers or people that he looked up with, I'm sure that our page would look more like that in terms of like product and lifestyle and this and city and what have you. It's kind of like, who do you, right? Show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you your future. It's the same thing. Like, who are you connecting with on Instagram in this art space? And then that's what you're going to become. So, hey, in whatever sense we've made it, we've made it in the sense of like, we don't need to make it any further in whatever Instagram is. That it's nice, or we've talked about that, like numbers are nice and all that, but we don't need that. So why don't we fall back into who we really are everyone
That's
out
a
there
great way to
that's
look at it.
listening, why don't we fall back into who we really are versus the passion or the influence that we took right from the beginning and then felt like, oh, now we're stuck. Now we're a wildlife guy. I'll be freaking honest. You go to my page, you're like, oh, wildlife, grizzly bears, this, that. I'm not a wildlife guy. I haven't been in a year. I've gone on vacations and done some real wildlife, but the last time I pulled a nooch is a real wildlife guy. The last time I pulled a nooch and got up at sunrise and sat out for 5 hours or 6 hours in the woods waiting for a woodpecker to come around, I can't tell you when it is. I miss it at times, but that's not what I'm doing every day. I know the accounts that do that every day. They show they're doing it every day. They're going for 4-hour hikes. They're sitting in the woods. They're over and over and over and over posting, and they're obsessed with it. And that's awesome. And they should promote what they're doing. It's almost like falling. And I was that person, but it's okay to fall back into who I am now with photography, which is right now it's a little bit of the podcast. Like that's who I am with photography. It's cabin shoots every once in a while and I'll post that. It's product stuff when I can do it and I'll post that. It's some food stuff. It's some clothing stuff. It's wildlife if it happens. It's a vacation and landscape if it happens. Like it is what's happening in my life. To go back to your point, it's like what's going on in your life. Why are you curating your life so it looks a certain way? It's kind of the thing that we all hate about social media is where like you're curating your highlights, you're curating this life and making it seem like this is who you are. But what's the real you? And I think you can get a step closer to being the real you if you show, hey, I was at a party or I had a gig. I'm going to take music photos of my guitars and try to do something cool and post it because that's part of my life versus I'm going to a gig and then I post a photo of like the woodpecker I got from 4 years ago. And people are like, oh, he must've been outside for hours. And it's like, it's just creating this narrative that isn't exactly you. Boom.
Right. So that was a monologue. I think I needed to hear, and probably a lot of other people. Yeah, I'm looking at your feed right now and it looks like you are outside all the time.
Right.
Right. And I'm just sitting here I was going through your feed and I'm like, there is not a single golf picture. You know how good of a golf photographer you'd be?
Sick.
You understand the game. You love the game. You talk about it all the time. You play well. You know the courses. Could you imagine how good you would be at it if you like dabbled a bit?
Yeah.
I've never seen a picture of you swinging a club.
Well, that's because I'm swinging. How am I going to take a picture of me swinging?
You're a photographer. Set it up on a tripod.
Can't do everything.
Or like the people you play with. It's just like I've never seen you.
I will say some of my favorite, they're up there, but like a couple of my favorite photos was 2 falls ago. I was at a beautiful golf course and I was at a wedding at a golf course and I brought my drone and after the wedding, like at cocktail hour, I ran to the car and flew with my drone. And it was just like, it's an amazing landscape. I've always been fascinated by like a golf course and the landscape that it carves out. There's a lot of leading lines. It's really nice to look at. I think maybe as a golfer, maybe not for everyone else, but some of those drone shots were really, I was like, wow, that's really fun. And I would do that. I would dabble in that. So you're right. I mean, golf has been and is another passion of mine. And there's nothing no one would know that I was a golfer.
Unless they listen to this podcast and
then they would
were reminded every episode.
Yeah, then they would know. They would know. They would definitely know.
In case you didn't know, Aaron golfs and I run.
Yeah. We used to rock climb. We talked about that for a while.
It's still boulder. I'll boulder when I have to. That's a good point, though. You can love things, let it go, and return to it. I'm speaking to myself. I was like, I'm always somebody who feels guilty leaving something that I've gotten into. Sometimes too, because you're like, I've talked so much about it. But I think it's a good thing to not be so rigid. Like to be able to change your mind on things with good reasoning, explain why.
Yeah, you should go
no
all
longer
in.
feel the same way about things. I think that's mature and natural.
Yeah, and go. I think it's healthy to go into something, all in. Like, go for it, and it might not work out.
Well, I
Like,
think I feel like we can put so much. We idolize people who are unwavering. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, they found their thing and they keep going and they work hard at it, and
and that's admirable. But it is okay to switch up. It's okay to change your mind, learn new things, which changes your perspective, get new tastes, new interests.
Yeah, it's
like I think naturally for me, there's been a guilt in that. It's like, well, what did I do all this for?
to experience it, and it just wasn't the thing that.
That's right.
It wasn't the girl you're gonna marry. It was a great experience. It was a season of my life, and it just doesn't suit me, and that's okay.
Yeah, I like that. Still like bouldering though. Am I as good as I was 2 years ago? No, but I can still go once or twice every 6 months and have so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And know it as like a fun thing to do. And, some things plateau and you're like, to take it to the next.
Well, we talk sometimes that it's this that plateaus, that it's photography that plateaus. And how do you break out of that? I think to what we just said, you can step away and not have that guilt. Yeah, you're going to atrophy a little bit, but you can always pick it back up. Like if you stop riding a bike for 2 years, you'll remember how. You might get on it and be like, whoa, this is a little weird, but you'll know how to do it and it'll still be fun.
Yeah. You're allowed to do anything, in the realm. You really are. You're not stuck to the photos you took 2 years ago or the page that you made.
Which is what I need to hear.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm like, I'm wildlife landscape guy. That's what Tamron expects from me. That's what I expect from me. Maybe that's what people who follow my work expect from me, but I'm more than that. And I want to be able to channel that energy and let that not be internalized or peak as frustration because I'm not authentically and creatively expressing myself. It's important to share this stuff with people because we care. We want to be validated. We want people to understand us and we want people to love what we're creating. So it's only natural.
Yeah. I challenge you to post your next post something not completely left field, but a departure.
Well, my last post was on the Zugo bikes.
Very cool.
Which was what I was doing. It's not wildlife and it was outside. And I want to do more of that. It doesn't mean I want to stop posting all the awesome wildlife encounters. But like, hey, I was doing this thing and it's true to who I am.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to omit that from the virtual me that is my social media.
Right. I think that's fair.
You know where it maybe starts? Maybe I change my profile picture. I'm all camoed out and hip waders in it. Maybe we give that a swap.
Yeah. Do it.
Nice little swappy swap. So you challenged me to what?
Keep it
Go
going.
left field?
Yeah, a little bit.
Why don't we challenge everyone?
Yeah, post something. Tag us, TPM Artwork. Hashtag TPM Artwork.
Just tag our Instagram.
Or tag our Instagram. We look at those. Mindset. And do something a little different that you liked, but you were like, everyone has that photo, shoot or sesh where they're like, oh, these are cool. Oh, I can't post these though because it doesn't match the fall grid.
Yeah, or go hear this and go out on assignment. Like, see if you can shoot something left field, but then cohesively blend it with what you've already got going on. That's what I'm going for. And then each album, carousel, whatever you post, kind of follows in line.
Yeah, like it.
Not a one-trick pony. Anything else? Any takeaways we need to rehash on?
I just think fall back to maybe who you really are and what you really like. And despite the beginning, we probably all had our community and our influences and wanted to match up and keep up with the Joneses. But maybe at this point, it's time to just reflect and be like, was this really all me? Is this what I want to be doing? Do I want to be stuck in this category? And especially if you're doing other things on the side and it's stuff you're proud of or work you're proud of, your page can be about the photographer and the photographer's multifaceted eye. And you can show, I think, all those things without feeling like I can only show one piece of my photography.
Well said. And I'll add, just because if you hear this conversation and you're resonating with it, it doesn't mean though that you have to photograph every single thing, because then that defeats the purpose. It's what you want to do.
What you want to do.
If there's an itch, scratch it. Right. And then I think also, if your Instagram feed is important to you, if your social media feed is important to you, figure out what it's trying to achieve. Is it just trying to look as visually, as aesthetically pleasing as possible? Is it trying to make sense for potential people, businesses landing on your page to help get you paid? What's it doing? Is it just to talk to people? Maybe I don't even need to post. I think those are the two big takeaways today. Aaron, good chatting with you, buddy.
You too, Seth.
Till next time. Go rate and review the show. Subscribe on YouTube. All those plugs at the end.
All those things.
Till next time.
Bye.